Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another crime story. I know that this is live, but I am not live. I'm probably currently working right now, but I wanted to make sure that I got this out there and allowed the YouTube algorithm to know that I am going to start doing these. Now, I don't know how much because it does require a little of research, but I will be doing them from time to time. Now, this is the story of Elizabeth Ricks, better known as Liz. Liz was born in Hampton, Virginia in 1983. She was a daughter, she was a sister, a wife, and a mother whose life ended too soon. She's described by friends and family as a free spirit, a talented writer, a talented dancer, very smart, very intelligent, very quick and witty, approachable and caring. The type of person that once you speak to her, you immediately felt like you had something that was drawn to her. But most importantly to her, she was a good, dedicated mother who was just concerned about the well-being of her two daughters. So she graduated from high school in 2001. I don't really know what was going on after she graduated from there, but she reportedly lived near Norfolk. For those of you that don't know, Norfolk, Virginia has the biggest naval station in the country. So you find people from all over the globe that reside there. I don't know when, but at some point, Liz encounters a man by the name of Matthew Sullivan. He was from Minnesota, but stationed in New York at the time because of the Navy. Matthew seemed like not just love, but stability. It was reported that the moment that they met, Liz and Matthew were inseparable. Matthew was taken with Liz, and Liz was taken with him, and they just continued to see one another despite knowing that Matthew would be assigned to San Diego, California. So he decides he's taken with her, he's going to propose. She said yes. They had only been seeing each other for a few months at this point. Her friend Calandra, that was interviewed by Dateline, says that I think they got married so fast because he was having a good time, she was having a good time, and it just seemed like they were the perfect match and like this was a perfect opportunity. But boy, were they wrong. So, of course, things got busy and they were preparing for their big move across the country, as well as, I'm going to guess, probably preparing for a wedding. She calls her friend, Calandra, and Calandra says, she called me and she said, holy bleep, 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 bleep. I think there's a kid in there, which meant Liz was pregnant. And of course, she was overwhelmed. Calandra adds, it was this entire period where we could not say stroller because she could not breathe. She was excited, but she was scared. So she goes to San Diego. There she's pregnant and she's alone because her husband is on deployment. She's in a new state, no family, no friends. At some point, they got married. She has a daughter while he's gone, making her a stay-at-home mom. He returns home where they are now a family, but it's only for a short period of time because he gets deployed yet again. Anyone who has experienced being a military child, a military brat, as we were called, you learn that when it comes to your parents who are in the military, that you only have so much time with them because they do end up being on deployment frequently and sometimes for extended periods. So I look back at a year and there may have been 3 months of my father in that year being around, and that might not even be 3 months straight. Not only is he deployed again, but she is pregnant again. So she's alone and she's having yet another baby. At some point after the birth of her second child, she decides that she needs to get out there. So she looks for different ways to do that. Somehow or another, she ends up meeting with well, not meeting, she ends up meeting a man at this store. They become extremely close, and his name is Nathan. Nathan's going to come into play later, so remember that name, because Nathan provides additional information to law enforcement throughout this process. Now, the first time they met, she had both of her children with her and she looked overwhelmed. So he offered to help her, and they ended up having such a long conversation that they were talking to the point of the store closing. She felt comfortable enough with him that they exchanged information. She started telling him about her husband and her children and their dynamic. Liz left that store not just getting an adult interaction, but also creating a friendship. Now, it does not matter, but in reports that I found, it states that Nathan is homosexual, but I don't see what it matters, but they just felt the need to say that. I guess to just show that their relationship was platonic. So she's made this friend. Matthew is gone, and then Matthew comes back. When he comes back, they soon move to Liberty Station, which is still a part of San Diego, California. Liz is struggling with this move because she has grown accustomed to not having him be there. I mean, at this point, she has 2 children. I think at the time of her disappearance, they were 2 and 4. So she's kind of learned to maneuver without having him there. So now she's having to handle, her children and this man, which is a struggle because she didn't really have to spend so much time with him previously. They spent more time apart from each other than they did together. To make matters worse, rather than speaking to Liz about it, Matthew lets her know that his parents and his sister are going to move in with them. She didn't even have a good relationship with them over the years, but she was expected to be okay with them moving in. It was said that she got upset about the move. So she got mad, she leaves, she goes to Nathan's house to vent, and she ends up spending the night over there. The next day, she gets up, tells Nathan that she's going to go home and she's going to call him later, but she never did call him. So he was accustomed to hearing from her. He says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call her because she would normally call me by now or have texted me by now, and I haven't heard anything. So let me just make sure that everything's okay. So he calls her and she answers the phone, but the conversation was like one-word answers according to him. And he was rushing her she was rushing him to get off the phone. Like, she didn't really want to talk. So he said, is everything okay? She says yes, ends up hanging up on him. So it's now like around October 14th. And this is when Matthew said that his family would be moving in. Nathan knows that, but he still feels like it's odd that he has not heard from Liz. So he calls her and he texts her, but she does not get a response. He then calls Matthew and says, look, I just, been trying to call Liz. I haven't been able to get her. Is everything okay? He says, I haven't talked to her, which is odd because this is your wife. What do you mean you haven't talked to her? And why are you so calm right now with telling me that you haven't talked to her? Nathan is concerned and he immediately calls the police. He attempts to file a missing persons report, and they thought that Nathan was overreacting. They tell him to call again after more time has passed. To me, with that type of call, with this friend being so concerned, I feel like they should have done a welfare check then, but I don't know. Let me leave it alone. More days pass, and then the family, as well as the friends, are concerned because they would normally hear from her as well. She talked to her father often, and he hadn't heard from her, so he was concerned also. Despite being contacted, Matthew is acting like nothing was wrong, and he continues to go about the business of having his family come to live with him. Kind of convenient if you ask me. I don't understand why this sudden move to California. Seems a little suspicious, but what do I know? After 3 days of the investigation, they decide, you know what, let's go ahead and let's do a check. They find Liz's car in the garage, which is, not really that big of a deal, but it's a big deal if she's supposed to be gone. There was a ticket in the car from her being parked somewhere for too long. And when asked by the investigators, where is your wife? He says he doesn't know, but he did notice that like a laptop and a suitcase and some other things were missing. He also mentioned that Liz writes a lot in her journal, and he found something in her journal where she said that she took out $1,000 out of her account, out of their account, and moved it into her personal account. So on the day Liz went missing, at some point, Matthew calls 911 several times saying that his wife took his money and that she left things a mess. That's not a call that you would normally make to 911, but there's only so much that the police could do because they really don't have a lot to go on. Some people may say that the police dropped the ball. I think that they kind of did in some ways. The family definitely feels that way. And it just didn't sit right with them because the family didn't trust Matthew. And at some points, neither did the police. Matthew seems calm throughout the investigation. He even takes a lie detector test at some point and he passes, whereas other people who were questioned did not. There are various reasons why, but I wish that some of the friends would have stepped up sooner, maybe with the information that they knew. To some people, her disappearing may not have sent off alarm bells, but Nathan knew there was more to the story. You guys remember I told you that the weekend before she went missing, that she spent the night at Nathan's house. So what was revealed is that she spent the night at Nathan's apartment planning for her divorce. That's right, you heard me correctly. She was planning to divorce Matthew. Nathan revealed Liz had been having problems with her husband, a lot of them up to that point, and that the final straw for her was him deciding that he was going to move his family into their home without discussing it with her. What was also revealed is that Liz had been previously abused by Matthew. So step one that she was supposed to make was to get a restraining order against Matthew and his family that would keep them away from the home. And the restraining order was going to be based on previous abuse that had been committed against Liz. Now, I don't know if she reported it to the police, but she must have had something that would be of credence. There were fights and arguments that would escalate to the point where there would be screaming, throwing of objects, things would break. And at one point, Nathan says that he grabbed Liz and he shoved her into a bookcase or something wooden because even a part of that broke off. So the police decide that they would look into things a bit more. They took certain things from the house along with her journal. In her journal, it showed some of the issues that Liz had. She wrote about her personality disorder, taking medication, times where she wanted to self-harm, and even that she wanted to leave Matthew, which probably did not help the way that they viewed her in the situation. Another source of tension in the marriage, according to her friend, was that Liz had an affair months earlier with a man by the name of Steve. The police were not surprised by this, though, because they had learned that Liz was dating because she was on the dating app called Tinder. Nathan said the husband found out about the infidelity and the couple was trying to cool things off and work things out. And Matthew agreed, yes, that's true, to the police that we were trying to work things out and I wasn't bothered by it. I wonder how often it actually happens that a husband finds out that a wife is having infidelity, especially when there's an abuse at play and he's not bothered by it. She actually, according to Nathan, did try to reconcile with Matthew, try to work things out, but the dutiful wife bit it wasn't there anymore. Now, Matthew told the police, as I said earlier, he wasn't bothered by it. But the police saw some of the text exchanges, not between Matthew and Liz, but between Matthew and Steve that showed he was bothered. So Steve was eventually questioned. He said that it was a fling that ended up ending quickly, that there was some drama with his roommate's girlfriend. Liz went to the house to do whatever it is that her and Steve would do, and the roommate's girlfriend saw that there were car seats in the back of the car. Now, rather than asking questions about it, she assumed that Liz was the bad mother, and she decided that she would call Protective Services so that they can do a check. So Protective Services shows up at the home to question her about her children, and she then has to admit to Matthew what happened. It is a mess. Liz didn't stop right away, though, even though she said she was going to. Matthew continued to know some of what she was doing because he had apparently been monitoring things. So Liz is supposed to be missing and sends an email to Steven. He's questioned by police. He said he saw the email. At first, he didn't think it was her, but then he asked a question about the birthday gift that she got him or something along those lines, something that she would only know. And the question was answered correctly, but nothing else was said. The fact that she emailed him rather than called him, to me, that would have been like, that's definitely not her. Steve didn't hear anything else and decided he had enough. He was going to get a lawyer. Nathan at this point was over being questioned, and Matthew was still trying to be the calm and collected one. Nathan said that at this point, detectives have interviewed him numerous occasions over the past 2 years. He said that the police questions at time felt like they were focused on him, the boyfriend, the husband, and other individuals that he did not know. He said that Liz did have an appointment with a divorce attorney scheduled Monday afternoon, which another one of her friends, the one that was on Dateline, confirmed. But after the appointment, Nathan said he never heard from his friend again, nor did her other friend. It's several months later, and despite not knowing what has happened to his wife, Matthew decides to move a lady into the home. This is the same man who told multiple sources that he was worried and depressed and he just wanted to get his wife back, but he moved some lady into the home. He then removes all of their friends and family that he has in connection with Liz from off of his social media and changes his Facebook status from saying that he is married to he's in a relationship. Keep in mind, at this point, it hasn't even been, I don't think it was even a year yet, and he did that, and they still don't know where or what happened to his wife. That doesn't seem like the actions of someone who isn't aware of what's going on. He said to the family when they questioned it that the young lady was just a friend that was there to help, but they learned later on it was more than that. At some point, police find out from one of Liz's friends, the one that was in the interview, that she received a call from Liz on a different phone number the day she disappeared, saying that she feels like Matthew is trying to kill her because she threatened to do so. But they couldn't find anything that verified that until later on. So that ends up being a dead end. We then have almost exactly 2 years to the date of her disappearance. On October 4th, 2016, a passerby found Elizabeth Sullivan's body badly decomposed in the San Diego Bay. It was identified by dental records blocks away from her home that she shared with her husband in Liberty Station. Now, Matthew has clearly moved on because not only does he have this woman, but he also has a child with this woman. The autopsy showed that her death was a homicide. She had been stabbed and beaten multiple times. It had been 2 years, but her body was in great shape. The medical examiners say that she had been dead, according to her body, for about a month or two. Strange, right? So the question then becomes, did she just pass, or was she kept in a freezer or something along those lines that her body hadn't decomposed as much as it should have at that point? Matthew Sullivan, on the day that the body was found and it was put all over the news, moves from where he's at to the East Coast shortly after the remains were discovered with his new boo and his now 3 children. He moves and the detectives are like, great, he's out of there, so we can go and search this home in a more thorough way because we may have missed something, because even though we came back several times to do different searches and grab different things, there were certain areas that we just couldn't check, or we couldn't do the type of forensics that we wanted to do because we didn't have a cause to do it. So now that he's gone, we can just do whatever we want. So they went in there with crime scene investigation. They do a luminol search in the home, and they find a lot of blood stains in the bathroom. But we're not talking about normal, I cut myself shaving blood stains. We're talking about splatter on the walls and what seemed to be a pool of blood that was under the carpet. They ran DNA. Eventually it matched Liz. They tried to arrest him then, but they said that the judge said they needed more than that. So they ended up going back, doing an additional search, where they later find a knife that is in the attic, tucked under insulation. They grab that knife, they do testing on that. They find not only does it have his blood on it, but it has Liz's blood on it as well. So it took some time, but in October of 2017, a year after they found her body, they were finally able to arrest Matthew Sullivan. He was booked into a Delaware jail and was taken to San Diego for prosecution. Matthew admitted to People magazine, when all of this was first going on, that yes, they were having marital problems and he didn't know where to look for his missing wife. He said, and I quote, "I'm at the end of my rope." This was back in 2014. "I'm running on fumes right now. I don't know where to look. I'm always looking around the neighborhood trying to catch a glimpse of her. Even if I got a phone call saying she's okay, it would put my mind at rest. But nothing at this point. No calls." The lies. February 21st, 2020, during the pandemic, the trial starts. His defense claims at trial that Elizabeth Sullivan used drugs, sometimes slept in the park near their home, and had a habit of self-mutilation or cutting, because they're going to make sure that she looks like the worst of the worst rather than showing what his issues were. He's convicted of second-degree murder despite the claims in March 2020 and was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison for the killing. The jury verdict and evidence at trial made it clear that Matthew Sullivan brutally murdered his wife, methodically cleaned up the messy murder site, and then hid her body for years. Superior Court Judge Albert said, according to the San Diego Tribune, he almost got away with it, but his final attempt to hide the body at the bottom of the bay failed. Despite whatever happened to this young lady, we have to remember that she was a loving mother of 2 and she was brutally murdered. And even with her being murdered and what they found, he still didn't get first degree. He got second. A lot of times I try to make sure that I don't make this a thing where it is race, but there is clearly other things that went on as to why this wasn't dug into more so. The family feels like it is because she was an African American female, and he was a Caucasian man. And that may be the case, but I kind of want to put that to the side. I want to say that this woman was a mother who had some issues, with this man who was in the military and was considered to be an upstanding citizen due to that. I feel like there's a lot more than just race that came into play here. I feel like there is classism. I feel like a lot of times things like this get thrown to the wayside because there isn't enough being said. There isn't enough being done. I know that it is hard to report when you are being abused. I know that DV is a very serious, can't even talk, very serious situation. And it's sad that the abusers continue to harm and inflict not just physical, but the mental anguish that they cause on individuals because people aren't reporting. If you know someone who is going through a situation like this, make sure that you're checking in on them the same way that Nathan did. Make sure you're writing things down. Make sure you're recording things. Make sure that you're encouraging them to leave and understanding with them leaving, there's that period of time that's the most dangerous for them. Have a safety plan. Have somewhere where they can go if they do decide that they want to escape. I know it's easier said than done, but we got to do something about this because the more and more of these cases that go on, there's signs there of something happening. She reached out to her friend and told her friend that she felt like he wanted to kill her. And then not even days later, she's gone. She took necessary steps to leave. She tried to file for a divorce, and that divorce might have sent him over the edge. We don't know what happened in those last minutes because as of 2024, he's still denying that he's the one who did it. You all like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below. And until next time.